Get out of my house. Mama Ngozi screamed as she grabbed the clay plate and smashed it against the wall. The loud crack echoed through the small compound, and pieces scattered across the dusty floor. Amaka froze where she stood. Her hands were trembling, and the bucket of water she had just carried from the stream slipped slightly in her grip. I'm sorry, she whispered. Sorry. Mama Ngozi's voice rose like thunder. Sorry will not fix the food you have wasted. I didn't waste it, Amaka said quickly, her voice shaking. The pot fell when the firewood collapsed. I tried to. Before she could finish, Mama Ngozi slapped the table so hard the pot jumped. Liar. Amaka lowered her head immediately. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she refused to cry. Not again. Not today. Because crying only made things worse. Clean this mess, Mama Ngozi continued coldly. And after that, go back to the stream. The water you brought is not enough. Amaka glanced at the bucket. It was almost full. But Mama, I already went 3 times. Mama Ngozi's eyes narrowed. What did you call me? Amaka swallowed quickly. More. I meant more. Then stop talking and do what you're told. Amaka nodded quietly and bent down to begin picking up the broken plate. Her fingers moved carefully so she wouldn't cut herself. But one sharp edge slipped into her skin. Oh, she gasped softly. A thin line of blood appeared on her finger. Mama Ngozi watched from the doorway, completely unmoved. You are too slow, she said with annoyance. When I married your father, I thought I was coming to a house with a helpful daughter. Instead, I met a useless girl. Amaka said nothing. The words hurt, but they were not new. Ever since her father married Mama Ngozi, life had changed completely. Before then, the house had been quiet but warm. Her mother used to hum songs while cooking. Her father used to laugh loudly at night. But after her mother died, everything felt empty. Her father had tried to fill that emptiness quickly. That was when Mama Ngozi entered their lives. At first, she was kind. Too kind. She smiled often and spoke softly. My dear Amaka, she would say sweetly. You are just like a daughter to me. Amaka had believed her. She had wanted to believe her. But the kindness lasted only until her father began traveling again for his trading business. The moment he left, Mama Ngozi's smile disappeared. And the cruelty began. Why are you still there? Mama Ngozi snapped suddenly. Amaka jumped slightly. I'm almost done. Almost. Mama Ngozi scoffed. You have been almost since morning. Amaka quickly gathered the last pieces and stood up. Good, Mama Ngozi said. Now take that bucket and go back to the stream. Amaka stared at the ground. My legs are tired, she said quietly. Mama Ngozi stepped closer. So, I have been walking since sunrise, Amaka continued softly. Maybe I can go later. The slap came so fast Amaka didn't see it. Her head snapped sideways. Do not question me. Mama Ngozi shouted. Amaka's cheek burned. Yes, Ma, she whispered. She picked up the bucket again. The stream was far. A long walk through the dusty path outside the village. But she didn't complain. Complaining only made things worse. As she stepped outside the compound, the afternoon sun hit her face. Her shoulders felt heavy. Her feet ached. But she kept walking. When she reached the stream, she knelt slowly and filled the bucket again. 2 women from the village were washing clothes nearby. One of them noticed her immediately. Amaka, the woman said gently. You look exhausted. Amaka forced a small smile. I'm fine. The second woman frowned. You are always carrying water these days, she said. Does your stepmother make you do all the work? Amaka hesitated. She didn't want to speak badly about her father's wife. I help around the house, she said quietly. The women exchanged a glance. One of them shook her head slowly. That woman, she muttered under her breath. Amaka quickly lifted the bucket. I should go. Be careful, one woman called after her. Amaka nodded and began the long walk back home. But as she approached the compound, something felt strange. Mama Ngozi was standing outside. Waiting. Her arms were folded, and her expression was dark. Amaka's stomach tightened. What took you so long? Mama Ngozi demanded. I went as fast as I could. Mama Ngozi stepped forward and looked inside the bucket. Her eyes narrowed again. This water is dirty. Amaka blinked in confusion. But it came from the stream. Do you think I'm blind? Mama Ngozi snapped. Look at it. Amaka stared at the water. It looked normal. I don't see. Before she could finish, Mama Ngozi kicked the bucket. Water spilled across the ground instantly. Amaka gasped. You will go back and bring clean water, Mama Ngozi said coldly. Amaka stared at the empty bucket. Her chest felt tight. But the sun is already setting, she said quietly. Mama Ngozi leaned closer, her voice dropping into a dangerous whisper. Then you better start walking. Amaka slowly bent down and picked up the bucket again. Her legs felt weak. Her heart felt even weaker. But she turned and began walking back toward the stream. Behind her, Mama Ngozi watched with a small, satisfied smile. Stubborn girl, she muttered to herself. But I will break you soon. Amaka didn't hear those words. But deep down, she could already feel something terrible growing in that house. And the worst was still coming. By the time Amaka returned with the water, the sky was already dark. Her legs felt like they might collapse beneath her. But she walked slowly into the compound. Mama Ngozi was sitting outside, eating. The smell of hot rice and stew filled the air. Amaka's stomach twisted painfully. She had not eaten all day. Mama Ngozi glanced up briefly. You're back. Yes, Ma, Amaka said softly. Leave the water there. Amaka placed the bucket down carefully. Her eyes drifted toward the food. Mama Ngozi noticed immediately. What are you staring at? Amaka quickly looked away. Nothing. Mama Ngozi smirked. You're hungry. Amaka said nothing. Mama Ngozi scooped another spoonful of rice into her mouth slowly. Then she pushed the empty plate aside. You can eat the leftovers in the pot, she said casually. Amaka's heart lifted slightly. Thank you. She hurried inside the kitchen. But when she lifted the pot lid, her breath caught. It was empty. Not a single grain of rice remained. Her shoulders dropped. Behind her, Mama Ngozi laughed. You should have seen your face. Amaka turned slowly. You lied to me. Mama Ngozi stood up. Watch your tone. You said there was food, Amaka continued quietly. But there is nothing. So? Mama Ngozi shrugged. You think food grows from the ground for free? I worked all day. Mama Ngozi stepped closer, her eyes hard. And whose house are you living in? My father's house. The words slipped out before Amaka could stop them. For a moment, everything went silent. Mama Ngozi's face changed. Slowly. Dangerously. Say that again, she said. Amaka's heart began to race. I didn't mean. Say it again. Amaka swallowed. My father's house. The slap came again. Harder this time. You ungrateful girl. Mama Ngozi shouted. Without me this house would fall apart. Amaka's eyes filled with tears. I only said the truth. Mama Ngozi stared at her for a long moment. Then suddenly, she smiled. A cold smile. You know what? She said softly. Maybe you're right. Amaka blinked in confusion. Yes, Mama Ngozi continued slowly. Maybe this really is your father's house. She walked toward the doorway. Which means you should leave it. Amaka froze. What? You heard me. You want me to leave? Yes. But, where will I go? Mama Ngozi shrugged again. That is not my problem. Amaka's chest tightened. My father will come back. Mama Ngozi's smile widened. Not for 2 weeks. The words hit Amaka like a stone. 2 weeks. You cannot throw me out, Amaka whispered. Oh, I can. Mama Ngozi walked inside and grabbed a small cloth bag. She threw it toward Amaka. It landed at her feet. Pack your things. I have nowhere to go. Mama Ngozi crossed her arms. Then sleep outside. Tears finally spilled down Amaka's face. Please, don't do this. Mama Ngozi's expression remained cold. You wanted to remind me whose house this is. Her voice hardened. Now go. Amaka stood there for a long moment. Her hands were shaking. Her heart felt broken. But she knew something about Mama Ngozi. When she made a decision, nothing changed it. Slowly, Amaka picked up the small bag and packed a few clothes she owned. Then she walked toward the gate. Before leaving, she turned back once more. Why do you hate me so much? She asked quietly. Mama Ngozi looked at her. For the first time, the truth appeared in her eyes. Because everywhere we go, people say the same thing. What? They say you are beautiful. They say you are kind. They say you are better than me. Amaka stared at her in shock. And I will not live in a house where a child shines brighter than me, Mama Ngozi finished. Amaka said nothing. She simply turned and walked out into the dark road. The night air was cold. The village was quiet. But as she walked, something unexpected happened. A lantern light appeared ahead. Amaka. It was one of the women from the stream. The woman hurried closer. Why are you carrying a bag? Amaka's voice broke. She sent me away. The woman's face hardened immediately. She did what? She said I should leave the house. The woman shook her head in disbelief. Come with me. Are you sure? Yes, the woman said firmly. No child should sleep on the road. Amaka followed her slowly. Behind them, the compound of Mama Ngozi stood silent. But 2 weeks later, something happened that Mama Ngozi never expected. Amaka's father returned earlier than planned. And the first thing he noticed was the silence in the house. Where is Amaka? He asked. Mama Ngozi forced a smile. She ran away. But the truth has a way of revealing itself. 3 days later, the entire village gathered as the story spread. And when Amaka finally stood in front of her father again, tears filled his eyes. I'm sorry, he whispered. I didn't know. Mama Ngozi tried to defend herself. But the villagers had already heard everything. Her cruelty. Her lies. Her jealousy. And that day, justice finally came. Mama Ngozi was sent away from the house she tried to control. Amaka returned home. Not as a servant, but as the daughter she had always been. And from that day forward, one truth remained clear to everyone in the village. Wickedness may rise for a time, but it never wins forever. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps bring more powerful stories like this to life.